Well, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight. My name's Claire. I am the Adult Services Program Librarian at Lake Villa District Library. For tonight's program, we're joined by Jeremy Scheifling, who will be presenting ChatGPT for job seekers, the right way to use AI to accelerate your search. So tonight's program is presented in partnership by several area libraries that make up the Lake Cook Career Collaborative. And you can find out more about upcoming programs at our website, careercollab.org. That's also in the chat. Please add any questions that you have throughout the program to the Q&A box. And Jeremy will be answering questions throughout the program. So please welcome Jeremy.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Claire. I'm just going to share that workshops because I want people to see that. In addition, let me go ahead and share my screen. What I am so excited about today is really getting a chance to work with you all to master these critical new skills. And to that end, I would love for you to give a little love in emoji format to your amazing team at the Lake Cook Career Collaborative. So please come to the chat, give your very best emojis to Claire and everyone who's supporting this. And also do me a favor, let me know what your hometown library is so we can give those libraries a little love as well. Okay, a little bit about your speaker tonight. First of all, I had this very lucky career. I've gone from being a kindergarten teacher to working in Silicon Valley to working for this guy. And there's a good chance you're not going to recognize his face. But if you are a recent grad or a parent of someone in school, there's a good chance that you would recognize his voice because this is Sal Khan, the founder of Khan Academy and the maker of all those free learning apps to help you master algebra and calculus and all that good stuff. And he was my boss a couple years ago. I remember in the summer of 2022, there was this very important moment. We were sitting at the office and we got a call from this guy in San Francisco named Sam. Now, Sam was calling to tell us about a brand new tool that was about to change the world forever. And as you may have guessed, that Sam was Sam Altman over at OpenAI. That tool was ChatGPT, and the rest, as they say, is history. Ever since I laid eyes on that tool, got that early access, I was like, hey, this is good for everyone, but it's going to be especially important for job seekers. And that's why I've worked with all these career centers around the world to help their students, their alumni earn awesome jobs. And I want to do the same for you tonight, but I have to warn you, as a former kindergarten teacher, old habits die hard, and this is not going to be your typical webinar. You know what I'm talking about. You kind of sit back, you sort of take a couple of notes. No way. Instead, I'm going to ask you to lean in three big ways. Number one, I've got some pop quizzes coming your way. Get ready to answer those in the chat, just like this. Number two, I'm going to actually demonstrate every killer AI technique so that you can see them firsthand. And to bring those demos to life, I need you to volunteer. So if you go to bat for me, I'm going to go to bat for you in the form of a free LinkedIn profile makeover. If you want to stand out on the world's most important hiring site, this is your chance. I'm a former LinkedIn insider. I would love to help you stand out. And then finally, most importantly, don't just watch my screen, do everything on my screen on your own. That's how you burn these techniques right into your muscle memory. That's how you put them to use right away. Okay, here we go. First pop quiz. Do you think, on balance, that AI is more likely to help or hurt your chances of getting a job? So come to the chat. There's no right answer. Just give me an A or a B. Okay, Hamid says A, and Kelly says A, and Chuck says A. And I think there might be a handful of B's. I think Sarah might be saying B and a couple others. Well, I will tell you that you are both right. Because, like any tool, AI can be used well or it can be used poorly. And what tonight's session is all about is finding out the right ways to use AI and steering clear of the wrong ways. So let's start with the dark side. How can AI hurt you? Well, think about the labor market as a true market. There's a supply of your talent, there's the demand for your talent. Obviously, we're trying to match those things up. Well, the problem is that if you use AI the same way that everyone else uses AI, all of a sudden you start to look the same. And the supply of all these clones makes it really easy for us to become interchangeable, easy for us to be laid off, to have our wages driven down. So we don't want to be a commodity. We don't want to be the same as everyone else who's basically applying with the same cover letters in the same way over and over again. That's the wrong way. On the other hand, if you use AI to avoid blending in with the crowd and instead to stand out from it, now you've got a way better chance of getting hired because you're the one who the recruiters actually notice. And that's what our session is about tonight, AI to differentiate. And we're going to start with the first step in that journey, which is not just being differentiated in your resume or your interview, but being differentiated in your focus. So, why do you think it's so important to start your job search with crystal clear focus? Is it A, because it speeds up your search and you get a job sooner? Is it B, because it makes you more successful in your search and you get more offers? Or is it C, it's not even about the job search itself, it's about the satisfaction that comes once you have the job? So I'm seeing a lot of great answers here. Vicky's saying B, William's saying A, Sarah's saying B. The A's and the B's are duking it out. But Jennifer Roop saw through my kindergarten teacher technique because it was a trick question. It was actually all of the above. Because sure enough, if you look at the data, every single stage of your journey is enhanced when you have that crystal clarity. So here's the big question. If you know that focus is so important, how do you get that focus when things are so crazy like they are right now? Well, if you want help finding your perfect path and you'd like to win a free profile makeover, all you've got to do is raise your hand, and our very first volunteer gets the prize and all the glory. So, our first volunteer is going to be William Pergakes. So, William, feel free to turn on your mic, and then everyone give William a ton of love in the chat for being our first volunteer. Welcome, William. And William, feel free to hit that little microphone button, and you'll be ready to rock. Okay. And William, if you're having, oh, there we go. Hey, William. Hey, William, try saying something. Okay, I think, William, you may actually have your audio set to a different input. So it might be coming from a Bluetooth versus your microphone. Try changing that audio. But in the interest of time, I'm going to come back to you for the next one. Let's see if we can have Lori Beckberger. So, Lori, I'm going to come to you. I'm going to give you the chance to unmute. Lori, try unmuting your line. Try saying something real quick.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you great. How are you, Lori?
Doing great.
All right. Thank you so much for volunteering. And Lori, I'm super excited to chat with you. And I want to know something really crazy, Lori. Do
Okay.
you know about the Japanese concept of ikigai? Does that sound familiar?
No.
Okay, so what it is basically all about building not just a career, but a great life. If you want to have a job that's really perfect for you, you can't just choose willy-nilly. You got to know what you're good at, what you love, and then match that up with the world. Does that make sense, Lori?
Yes,
Okay,
very much.
so that's the Ikigai approach. Now let's see if we can use AI to fill in some of these gaps. So big question, Lori. Tell me a little bit about yourself in terms of what you're good at, some of your top skills, and also what you love. What lights you up, Lori?
In terms of career slash work life or personal?
Yeah, so good question. I do think that a lot of times the things that we love in our personal life are just as valid in our professional life. For example, the fact that I love technology so much actually helps me as a teacher because I can share it with kids when they want to learn. So don't feel like you have to drive, an artificial line between those things.
Okay. I love helping people.
Yeah,
And I'm a pharmacist, so that goes along with that. I like doing things outside. That's more the personal.
yeah,
Cooking and walking and going to the beach and that sort of stuff.
yeah,
Um, I like to use my mind and think and problem solve and figure things out, whether it's, a problem for somebody else or for myself.
yeah. And
I
just to be
like
really,
variety.
yeah, oh,
I
very
don't
good.
like
The
doing the
spice of
same
life,
thing.
right?
I don't like doing the same thing every day. No.
Yeah. And just to be really clear, like, do you want to stay as a pharmacist or are you open to other things?
Um, I like being a pharmacist, but I would like to do something different than I'm doing now. Or
Aha, there goes
something
that
that would
variety
be
again, right?
skills. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So watch this. If you say, hey, this is what I've done in the past, but I'm open to doing other things, we got to get a sense of what's possible. So if we want to fill in these gaps, what the world needs from you, Lori, what you can be paid for, of course, we're going to ask
Hmm.
AI to give us some ideas. So check this out, y'all. You're going to say, what are 10 specific job titles that match my skills and interests? And the really cool thing about using AI is because AI has been trained on more things than we even know exist. It's going to say, hey, you could certainly stay in pharmacy, but there are going to be all these other roles that could be really good too. Public health educator, clinical research coordinator, environmental health officer. And you can see that it's trying to figure out stuff that fits the things you share. So I'm going to ask you another big question here, Lori. Sorry for putting you on the spot. If you had to close your eyes and imagine a job that just lights you up, what are some things that are going to be really important to you? It could be compensation, work-life balance, travel, social impact. What's really critical to you, Lori?
Yeah, compensation's important.
Yeah,
Not, I don't have to be paid billions of dollars, but want to be secure.
yeah,
Um, Definitely work-life balance is very important in terms of having
yes,
a lot of time off and not having to work, lots of crazy long days, that sort of thing.
yeah, absolutely. So watch this. The really cool thing about AI is I think at this point we all understand that AI is pretty good at like spitting out text. What you may not have realized is AI is really good at helping you compare options as well. There are
Hmm.
some roles where you're going to have great work-life balance, but lousy pay. Some roles where you have great pay and really lousy, work-life balance, or et cetera, et cetera. So, what I want to know from you, Lori, is of these 10 job titles on my screen right now, is there one that really intrigues you, where you want to learn more about it?
I'm gonna read here.
Yeah, take your time. By the way, what I would love for everyone to do is by all means give Lori some love in the chat. Give her your very best emojis, but also try these things on your screen. Ask, AI, hey, what are some good roles for me based on my skills? How do they fit into the values that I want for a great life?
Um, I think the last two actually, healthcare operations analyst or patient safety specialist sound interesting to learn about.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we wanted to learn about these roles, who should we be talking to out there in the real world, Lori? Obviously, we can talk to AI until the cows come home, but there's a real person out there who's going to be way more interesting for us.
Hmm. I'm not sure actually.
Turns out it is the people who are doing these jobs.
Mhm.
Because if we want to really deeply understand it, if we want to imagine ourselves doing that job, we got to talk to the real people, not just the robots. So check this out. If you come to LinkedIn and you say, I want to talk to a healthcare operations analyst, what you will discover is there are a ton of those people on LinkedIn. Sure enough, if you come over here to people, you're going to see all these folks doing that job. Now, I'm going to give you a huge shortcut, Lori. You can reach out to any old stranger across the internet, but how likely is some random stranger going to be to respond to you if you reach out to them, Lori?
Probably about nil.
Exactly. That is sort of that stranger danger problem that we all were warned about when we were kids, right? But it turns out that a lot of these people are not strangers. They are actually friends of friends. And to prove that, check this out. I'm going to say, show me all my second degree connections who I could reach out to through someone that I already know. In this case, I'm going to go over to Morgana or to Jen. And I'm going to say, I want to get in touch with Jen, but I don't want to reach out cold because she's not going to respond. What's the better approach, Lori? How do I prove to Jen that I'm actually a friend of her friend?
Hmm.
And if
Well,
anyone, yeah, go
by
for it.
by naming the connection.
Aha, looks like there's a mutual connection here. So this is the power move, and I want you guys to really lean on this when times are tough like they are now. Don't just go on this journey solo. Get an ally, get a wingman or a wing person to help you out. And that's going to be Charles in this case. So I'm going to reach out to Charles. I'm going to say, Charles, would you mind introducing me to Jen? And then when Charles reaches out to Jen, he's going to say, hey, you got to talk to Claire. Claire is not just someone who is awesome, but someone who I can personally vouch for because I know her as well. So, what you're really doing is you're leveraging the most important algorithm, Lori. Not the AI algorithm, the ChatGPT algorithm, but the human algorithm. The fact that we as a species rely upon relationships and trust to make decisions. So now, you have a chat scheduled with Jen. What do you want to ask her, Lori, to decide if Jen's role is a good fit for you? What should you focus on?
What she does on a day-to-day basis, what she likes about it, what she doesn't like about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to get a sense of the role, the upsides, the downsides. But I think here's where we go wrong sometimes, Lori, in terms of these informational interviews. What we determine in these calls is we discover that Jen loves her job, which is great, but we never figure out if we're going to love the job. So, what do you think we could do to really hold our feet to the fire, to come back to our own ikigai? Well, it turns out we can go back to AI. Check this out, Lori. If we go to AI and say, what are 10 questions to ask a healthcare operations analyst to decide if her role matches my skills, interests, and goals? I've got one last question for you, Lori. Does AI know your skills, interests, and goals? What do you
Well,
think?
I know some of my skills and interests from the first paragraph or whatever.
Aha, Lori, you have just put your finger on something so important here. So often we are so used to talking to real people that we feel like we have to repeat ourselves 8 times because half of that stuff goes in one ear and out the other. But AI keeps it in working memory. Check this out. We told it our skills, we told it our interests, we told it our goals. Let's bring it all full circle. Now, instead of just asking generic questions, we're asking questions about the things that matter to you. I know that you
Hmm.
love problem solving. I know that you love working with others. I know that work life balance is important to you. Now we're not just figuring out, hey, does Jen love her job? We're figuring out, will Lori love her job as well? And
Hmm.
Lori, I'm going to be giving you a free profile makeover, not just because you were brave today, although you absolutely were, but because you've helped people across Chicagoland with this critical first step, finding their ikigai. I cannot thank you enough, Lori. Please send me a message on LinkedIn. I just put my address into the URL, into the chat.
Okay, thank you very much. That's very helpful.
Hey, it was totally my pleasure. And good luck out there, Lori. You rock.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Everyone, please give it up for Lori. That takes guts to put yourself out there, but that's the way to do it. Okay, if you've got questions about anything you're seeing here, in terms of Jeremy, which AI should I use? How should I prompt it the right way? Or I'm new to LinkedIn, how do I connect with someone? Let's talk it through. Because I guarantee you, if you've got the question, everyone's got the question. And you can ask questions in a couple different ways. You can either put them in the chat, you can put them in the Q&A. And by the way, the advantage of the Q&A is people can upvote the questions so we can get a sense of what people really care about. Or better yet, just raise your hand on Zoom and I'll call on you directly and we can chat live. So let's start with Pradash here. Pradash, I'm going to unmute your line or give you the ability to talk. And actually, you can unmute Pradash. Let me know what's on your mind. Hello. Hi, Pradash. Same issue. No audio coming through. Again, it's one of those tricky things with Zoom where if you have multiple microphones or headphones, it's only going to pick up one of them. So you may have to change it under your audio setting. But I'll be here when you're ready. Okay, Pradash? Okay, Lori's got a great question. What if we don't have many connections on LinkedIn or don't have any that are relevant for what we're looking for? Great question, Lori. So, Lori, if you don't mind unmuting for one moment, Lori, did you go to any kind of college before getting into pharmacy work?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, what was the name of it?
University of Michigan.
Oh my goodness, you're a fellow Wolverine. Okay, I got to give you a little Go Blue love here. You will see on my own profile, I'm one of those guys. And hopefully we're not ticking off all the Illini and everyone else out there. Much love to the entire Big Ten. That being said, if you have any kind of school affiliation, you can absolutely draw upon that. And so what I would do is I would look up University of Michigan, and then, even if you only have 50 connections on LinkedIn, you will discover that you have 500,000 connections through the power of the leaders and best. I know that's kind of annoying, so I always feel bad to say that. What you can do is you can come over here to this alumni tab. And by the way, this is actually what my team built at LinkedIn, this little tool to help you find awesome alumni. And you can say, show me everyone who's in healthcare operations. And what you will discover is even if you're not closely connected to these people, you've got 250 fellow Wolverines doing this work. And you could reach out, instead of by reaching out through a mutual connection, you reach out and you say, Go Blue! How awesome was that game against Wisconsin this weekend? Can I pick your brain about your experience? And of course, the power of alma maters is people love to share what they've learned, especially with fellow alums. So that's another great way in. Okay, Lori?
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thanks.
Awesome question. Go Blue. Okay, Judy's got a great question in the Q&A. Which AI program is the best one to use? So Judy, this is going to shock you because I am coming to you from Silicon Valley, but the best one to use is the one that you like using. Do not get caught up on, oh, ChatGPT is the best. No, Claude is the best. They are all trained with the same techniques, using the same data. They give very similar responses. So what I would do is try out ChatGPT, try out Claude, and I'll just put some of these links in the chat if you want to try them. Try out Gemini by Google. And then if there's one that you really enjoy using, it just feels like it's working for you, stick with it. What you will discover is you can use these tools to get a lot of stuff done, and you almost never run into a paywall. You never run into a moment where you actually have to bring out a credit card. So take advantage of the fact that they're giving away all this great power for free, and don't get hung up on any of that hype from my colleagues here in the Valley. Great question, Judy. Okay, let's go next to a question from Hamid. And actually, Pradosh, I think you have your line on, Pradosh. Here. Pradosh, can you speak your question? Okay, we have that dreaded echo, unfortunately. So what I'm going to do is, Pradosh, I'm going to encourage you to put your question in the chat, and that'll probably be the best for this one. Okay, Hamid says, how do I break AI resume reviews paradigm? Ah, yes. So Hamid is getting into the question around resumes that, of course, everyone wants answered. So let's dig into it. Here's our next pop quiz. What do you think is the number one reason that resumes get rejected? Is it A, because they didn't fit the role? B, because we didn't use the right format that we learned back in college? Or C, because our resume was just too long and it really annoyed the recruiter? What do you think is the leading source of otherwise good candidates getting rejected? Okay, I'm seeing an awful lot of A's here. Ed saying A, Kelly saying A, Jerry saying A. Hey, Jerry, I want to give a little big shout out to Jerry Donahue, who helped to make this possible, as well as Claire. Well, it turns out you are all right, because at the end of the day, if I'm a recruiter, I don't really care about your format. I don't even care about your length that much, but I do care about fit. Because the reason that I have a job is to find people who fit the role. If I bring candidates to the hiring manager who are not a good fit, not only won't they get the job, but I will also lose my job. So fit is everything. And to prove it to you, let me show you a story from 20 years ago. When I started my career, in addition to being a kindergarten teacher, I was also a recruiter at Teach for America. And as a small nonprofit with a big presence, we had hundreds of applications for every job and a skeleton crew of recruiters to review them. So what did we do? We did the same thing that EMTs do every day in Chicago, which is we did triage. We said, hey, we're just going to focus on the resumes that make the most sense because they actually match the role. And what I'm so excited to show you 20 years later is finally we job seekers have the power at our fingertips to understand what's going on inside these systems. So if you want to get your resume through that ATS and you want to win a free profile makeover, all you've got to do is raise your hand right now And if you're the first to raise your hand, that opportunity is yours. So, Rhonda Davis, I'm going to give you the chance to unmute your line. And Rhonda, welcome to the show.
Hi,
Hi,
can you
Rhonda.
hear
How are
me?
you? Hey, I can hear you great. Um, Rhonda, I feel like we're doing one of those NPR call-in shows. Tell me which library you're a patron of.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
Oh
I
yeah,
haven't had there.
which yeah, which library do you use, Rhonda?
Northbrook.
Northbrook.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we have a lot of love to Northbrook. If you're a fellow Northbrook patron, give your a hometown library a little love in the chat. And now, Rhonda, I don't want you to go easy on me. I want you to throw down the gauntlet and tell me the name of the exact job you want next. And together, we're going to get you through this ATS gauntlet.
The content marketing specialist.
Ooh, very cool. And so, say that first part for me again one more time. What kind of marketing specialist?
Content.
Content marketing. Ah, beautiful. So, Rhonda, I have spent most of my tech career in marketing, so I'm very familiar with that role. That being said, as familiar with that role as I am, I don't know all the things that matter, all the skills, all the keywords. If we wanted to figure out what those recruiters want inside your resume, what should we look at together, Rhonda? What document is the source of truth?
My resume, my LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, so that's important. That's what you're going to submit. But how do the recruiters compare that to the gold standard? How do they teach the system to know what to look for? And check out what Ed said in the chat. And Sarah.
Oh yeah, the JD, job description.
JD, yes. And so, if we want to understand what's going on inside those recruiter minds, we've got to start with their job listings. So here we go. We're going to say content marketing specialist job in the Chicago area. I have a feeling we're going to see lots of cool jobs, which is great. Once we have these jobs pulled up, let's get really specific. So here we go. Senior marketing content specialist. And we see inside this job description, there's all this discussion of B2C, B2B, copy, and digital, and search engine optimization. To me, this is a lot, Rhonda. Would you like to have a cheat sheet that breaks this down to just the most important skills?
Yes.
Okay, let's make it happen. Watch this, y'all. I want you to grab a job description that you're excited about. It could be in any field, any industry. I want you to grab the entire job, come back to AI, and ask this question. What are the top 15 most important skill keywords in this JD, job description? And you just paste in the entire thing, and voila, for the first time in the history of job seeking, we now have the truth, Rhonda. Here's the stuff that matters. So how does that feel so far, Rhonda?
Awesome.
Okay, that's the fun step, Rhonda. Are you ready for the slightly scarier step when we look into that black box and find out how you're doing on these keywords?
Sure.
Oh, I love it. Okay, everyone, give Rhonda some love in the chat. Takes a lot of guts to do this, but what you're going to see is that it's such an important way to control your destiny. So I'm going to pull up Rhonda's profile. And Rhonda, I'm going to look for Northbrook, but let me know if there's a better way to track down your profile.
Rhonda Sue.
Oh, Rhonda Sue. Okay, awesome. Rhonda Sue. Get rid of that. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, there we go. Yes, Rhonda, we are ready to rock. I love your cover photo, by the way. That's gorgeous. Okay, here's a really cool hack, y'all. If you ever find yourself out there in the world and a recruiter or someone inside a company says, hey, give me a copy of your resume, and you don't have it handy, you can always go to your profile, go to the More or Resources button, and click Save to PDF. So we're going to download everything Rhonda's putting out into the world so we can use it in our AI analysis. Check this out, Rhonda. We come back to AI, we upload that file, and now we're going to ask the shortest but most important prompt of your entire career. Which of those skills am I missing? Okay, Rhonda, are you ready for your moment of truth, the big reveal? Rhonda's like, oh
Yes.
no, what have
Yeah,
I
yeah,
got
yeah,
myself
of course.
into? Don't worry. Here's the ultimate question, Rhonda. Would you rather find out which skills you're missing before you apply or after you're rejected?
Yeah, of course, before.
Exactly. Because here's what the session is really about. You might have thought you were coming to an AI session, but this session is really about time travel. Because what we're talking about is you reaching into the future, Rhonda, to change your destiny based on what you do today. So here we go. We got to get our marching orders. Okay. It turns out, Rhonda, that you are doing great. You nailed content development, copywriting, editing, proofreading. There are only a handful of things that you're not getting credit for today. So, of these areas, strategic thinking, storytelling, SEO, multi channel, do you have experience with any of these skills? Just a little bit, Rhonda.
Of course.
Yeah, any good marketer has these skills. So, Rhonda, if we want to get you credit for these skills, where should we put them in your resume or your profile? Where do they belong? Is it experience? Is it education? Is it volunteer? Is it skills?
Skills.
Skills. Yeah, skills make sense. And you've got a lot of them, which is awesome. But there's a little problem, Rhonda. Check this out. If we look inside a real life ATS, what we will discover is that if we look for content marketing or marketing specialist, we will discover that if we search for search engine marketing and click search, it turns out, Rhonda, this is not just a binary search, like does Rhonda have it in her skill section, yes or no? It is looking at the context of your experience. How deep do you have that background? Now, Rhonda, where is this number coming from? How does this stupid little algorithm know how deep your experience is?
I don't know.
Turns out, let's see if anyone knows, that it's actually coming from your experience section. Every time we talk about 4 years and 8 months or 16 years and 10 months, we're teaching the algorithm not just that we worked there for that long, but we have that much experience with digital marketing, with brand lift, with all these things. So, this is the hardest but most tempting question of the entire session, Rhonda. Knowing that your experience section is really critical to this algorithm, do you think it's a good idea to rewrite my entire experience section to include all those skills? Is that a good idea, Rhonda?
Yes.
Okay, it seems like a good idea. It certainly saves you a lot of time. It gets you credit for all those things. There's only one problem. Imagine yourself, Rhonda, in the final round of the interview process for your dream job, and they ask you about something that you've never done before because AI hallucinated it. What does that mean for your chances of getting that job?
Just lost it.
Exactly. And so here's the thing. As we talked about, AI is an amazing tool for research, for analysis, for all these great things. But Rhonda, who is the world's #1 expert on your story?
Me.
You. Which means we don't want to outsource that to someone who doesn't even understand what humans really are. We want you to tell your story the best way possible using AI as your assistant. And that is the perfect 1-2 punch of your skills and the AI skills. Okay, Rhonda, you have been fabulous tonight. I put you in the hot seat, and yet you were the one on fire. Absolutely en fuego. But at the risk of asking too much, could I ask you to do one little homework assignment for me, Rhonda, if I tell you it's the most important homework you will ever do?
Sure.
Okay, I know you're probably well past the point of doing homework, but the reason I call this your most important homework is that the whole point of education, the whole point of coming to sessions like this, is that you want to open doors to opportunity. And there is no better way to bust down the doors of opportunity than to give recruiters what they need right where they're looking. And so your homework, Rhonda, is to add in all those skills authentically based on what you've actually done. And then I'm going to come back for a full makeover from your cover photo all the way down to your interest section. Is that a fair deal, Rhonda?
100%. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. You were amazing. Okay, all of Chicagoland, please come to the chat right now. Blow it up for Rhonda. She crushed that. Beautifully done. Okay,
Thank
we are
you.
now at the point where I would love to take a bunch of questions about applicant tracking systems, about keywords, about resumes, cover letters, whatever's on your mind. Let's dig into it. And of course, the best way to ask a question is put it in the Q&A or raise your hand, but you can also throw it in the chat too if that's easier. So let's start with a question from Ed. Ed says, should we stay away from the AI tool our current employer uses like Copilot? It is true, Ed, that depending on the agreement between, say, Microsoft and your employer, they could have access to transcripts of your chats. So there might be an advantage to using, say, Gemini instead of Copilot. That being said, I do want to let you know that inside all of these tools, there are ways to control what you actually share. So for example, if you are in ChatGPT and you want to make sure that your data is not ending up in ChatGPT's own archives, you can always come to your settings right over here. You can come to data controls, and where it says improve the model for everyone, here's what this really means. Give us your data for free so we can get richer. And if you're not comfortable with that, given that OpenAI is already worth $600 billion, please turn this off as I have done, so that way your data is not recorded in their systems, not used to train their models. So again, a couple ways to keep your information safe. Great question, Ed. Okay, folks are asking about recordings. Absolutely, we're recording the session. You're gonna get the recording, you're gonna get all the links, all the prompts, everything will be good to go. Okay, Jerry, who made this session possible, has a juicy question. How important is a cover letter when applying for a position? So it turns out this is one of the most maddening parts of the entire hiring process because every recruiter is different. Some recruiters always read cover letters, some recruiters never read cover letters, and you're just not sure who's who ahead of time. So what I'm going to recommend is actually a little decision framework by our good buddy Jeff Bezos, as in the founder of Amazon. Check this out. When Jeff was starting Amazon back in the day, he was overwhelmed by all the decisions he had to make. Where should the office be? What kind of furniture should they have? Should they allow dogs? Yes or no? And he realized he was so paralyzed by all this decision making that he needed a better way to cut through it. So he basically said, here's the deal. I'm going to imagine myself in 50 years. If I will regret not doing it today, I will do it every time just to sort of save myself the pain. But if I won't care about it in the future, I'll just say no because who cares? And the same thing applies to cover letters. For all those jobs where, it's the dream job, you got to get it, you always write the cover letter, even if it's never read, for the psychological insurance of leaving it all out in the field, knowing that you gave it your best. But for all the other jobs, we're just building momentum, getting your application process in order. Feel free to skip the cover letter, even if it does matter, because you won't lose any sleep over it. You don't even care about it now. That's the easy way to get through. As far as what you put in the cover letter, don't fall into the trap that we talked about of generate a cover letter for a job at the Chicago Cubs. Go Cubbies, by the way. Also, love for the White Sox if you have any Sox fans out there. Because no matter where you're applying, it's going to all sound the same. It's going to be like, I am writing to express my interest in X role at Y company. Instead, say, what are the three main pain points behind this JD, behind this job description? And then once you understand the pain of the hiring manager, you say, and I'm going to put these things into the chat. Once you understand the pain, you're going to say, what are three ways I can point to from my CV for how I can solve these pains? And now you're speaking the language of hiring, not just, hey, here's my random generic application, but here's how I can solve your specific pain, which is the whole reason you're hiring in the first place. To me, that's a great cover letter because it speaks to my needs as a hiring manager, not just to checking a box. Great question, Jerry. Thank you for calling it out. Okay, one last question. S Beta says, should we use AI to customize our resume for every application? Well, it turns out that again, we have that sort of Jeff Bezos principle of you don't want to necessarily burn yourself out. And I agree that if you're going to have a customized resume for every application, you may basically throw up your hands too soon in the process. So I probably wouldn't recommend customized for every job, but I would recommend customized for every job category. Here's what I mean. If you go to AI and say, what are the 10 key skills for a product manager role, you will discover that pretty much all the jobs are going to ask for the same things. You must have user research, you must have product road mapping, you must have cross-functional communication. So if I'm going to build out a resume template, I'm going to have an entire version dedicated to product management that focuses on those skills. But when I come over here and say, what are the 10 key skills for a product marketing role, we'll see that these skills are slightly different, which means I should have a separate version for these kinds of roles. So it doesn't have to be different versions for every application, but every job category, every job family should have its own customized version. Okay, let's do this. Let us roll on to our final pop quiz, and then we'll take some more questions. Here we go. Fun question. At the end of the day, you're going to have to interview. No matter how much you've used AI for resumes and cover letters and all that other stuff, at some point you've got to talk to a real person. And the question is, how does a real person think about an interview? Well, to understand that, I want to put you in the interviewer's hot seat and imagine that you are interviewing 3 members of the Simpsons cast. A, Homer Simpson, B, Lisa Simpson, C, Mr. Burns. Who would you prefer to work with? And this is fascinating, Claire. Every single person across Chicagoland is saying Lisa. Adam's saying Lisa. Kelly's saying Lisa. Liz is saying Lisa. Danielle's saying Lisa. And it turns out that pretty much every human in the world says Lisa because of what Lisa represents. Not just someone who can do the job, but someone that we want to do the job with. Yes, Mr. Burns is super successful. Homer is super likable, but Lisa is the full package. And the reason I bring this up is that when you sit in that interviewee seat, I want you to be the Lisa of that interview who is the perfect human hire for your boss. And so, to show you 2 final AI tools and to give you one last profile makeover opportunity, I want you to raise your hand one last time for me because the final volunteer wins that final chance. And now it's going to be Judy Chapinski. So Judy, I'm giving you the power to turn on your mic, and everyone give Judy a ton of love for being our final volunteer. Welcome, Judy.
Thank
Hello,
you.
hello. Of
Hi.
course. How are you, Judy?
Good. How are you?
And Judy, where are you calling from? What's your library?
I go to the Lake Villa Library.
Woohoo. Okay, look at that, Claire. We got a Lake Villa patron right on the line.
Yay.
Okay, well, say hi to Claire next time you're in the library. And Judy, tell me this. If you could work anywhere in Chicagoland, anywhere that would make your heart go pitter patter, is there any company or any role that you're really excited about?
I do product development and brand management. There are several companies close by that I'd be very excited to work with. One might be Rust-Oleum.
Ooh, very cool. I love it. Okay, so let's imagine that we're going to do like a Vulcan mind meld with your future boss at Rust-Oleum. If you want to understand what he or she cares about in terms of a really competent, awesome teammate, where should we look again to understand their needs, their desires? What do we call that document?
The job description?
A job description. So here we go. We're going to say Rust-Oleum product development job because we want to understand that sort of cry for help from inside the building. So let's grab this job over here. And what we're going to do is we're going to say, whoa, there's a lot of HREs going on here, a lot of bullet points.
Yes.
Let's
They
turn
do
this
that.
into, exactly, let's turn this into plain English. So even though AI is terrible at writing, it is very good at translation. Check this out, Judy. We come to AI. We say, what are the 10 most likely interview questions for this role? And voila, our little friend AI can take all of that HREs and put it into the things that your boss is actually going to ask you. Now, notice this, Judy. You've got a lot of behavioral questions here. Walk me through your approach. Tell us about a time. Describe an example. When you face these kinds of questions, Judy, do you recall that there's a certain framework, a certain sort of acronym for answering these tell me about a time questions that tends to be really effective? Does that ring a bell at all, Judy?
Are you talking about something like the STAR process?
Exactly, the STAR process. So remind everyone who's maybe been out of school a little bit, what is the STAR process all about, Judy?
Did you just take the acronym? So it's STAR is situation, task, action, and result.
Yeah. I know it sounds a little arbitrary, so some people are going to say, hey, that sounds a little fake. But it turns out what you just identified, Judy, is human storytelling 101. Every great human story, from ancient civilizations all the way to Hollywood today, it follows that flow. There's a galaxy far, far away. An evil villain is blowing up planets. Someone's got to fly into the Death Star. Peace and prosperity is restored to the galaxy. We love that kind of approach. So, you know Star. I know Star. Lots of folks on the line know Star. Who else knows Star, Judy, that's not even human?
AI.
AI. Check this out. Generate a star answer for number 10 based on my CV. And it turns out, as bad as AI is at writing, it's really good at realignment. It says, okay, here are the things that I've done. And I'm going to walk you through them step by step by step to get that beautiful flow.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's really good. And here's the thing. It's so good that it could even lull us into a false sense of complacency. Because a lot of times you might say, hey, I've got great stories, I've got great structure, I'm ready for this interview. And yet, Judy, if you walk into Rust-Oleum HQ with the world's best stories, but the world's worst delivery, will you get that job?
Probably not.
No, we gotta be that full package. So, Judy, if you're gonna plan out an interview prep plan to come across as warm and engaging, even if you feel cold and nervous on the inside, what can you start doing today to grow those interview muscles? How do you get better?
By practicing?
Practicing, yeah. And it turns out it's not just the practice, it's also the feedback, right? The ability to not just go through the motions and reinforce bad habits, but to challenge those bad habits and get better and better. Now, Judy, do you happen to have a dedicated career coach who can spend 10 to 20 hours with you on practice interviews?
No.
No, me neither. I don't think anyone on the line has that. If I could give you that dedicated career coach and it wouldn't cost you an arm and a leg, would you be interested?
Yeah, as long as it was, a reasonable price, yes.
Yeah, so reasonable as in free. Check this out. I'm going to actually share my screen again, but this time I'm going to share it with audio turned on. And I want everyone to turn up their speakers because this is one of those demos where listening, not seeing, is believing. So the tool that I'm pointing you to, Judy, is a tool called Udly. And I actually like Udly even better than ChatGPT because unlike ChatGPT, which makes you more robotic, Udly helps you come across as more human, more engaging. Check this out. Go over to practice. We say, I want to do a practice session for product developer over at Rust-Oleum. Okay, listen to this, Judy.
Hey, Jeremy, good to see you today. How's it going? I hope you're doing well and ready for our chat about the product developer role here at Rust-Oleum.
Yeah, super excited, Mike. Let's do this.
Awesome. I love that energy. So let's jump right in. Can you tell me about a time when you had to develop or improve a product and what your approach was to tackling that challenge?
Yeah, so I was thinking about a time when I was working at LinkedIn, Mike, and we had all of these tools that were supposed to help people be able to find jobs and get access to opportunity, but my audience was students. And I realized no student wanted to use LinkedIn. They didn't understand why LinkedIn mattered to them. And so what we did is we started by understanding exactly what our students' challenges were, connecting with alumni, feeling the courage to reach out there, feeling the power to go out and learn about a new role. And we started to build out these tools like the alumni tool to help them make those first baby steps into that area. And what we were hearing from students is for the first time in their entire lives, they felt like something was built for them to help them break into the big wider world. And so that was our first sign that something was working.
That's a great example of really understanding your users' needs first. I'm curious, when you were developing that alumni tool, how did you handle any pushback or resistance you might have encountered, whether from stakeholders or even from the students themselves during the development process?
Okay, so what you can see here, Judy, is that this tool is not just really good at going sort of through the motions, but it actually holds your feet to the fire the way that a good interviewer does. And then, speaking of being accountable to yourself, you want to be able to give yourself that feedback. Because again, as someone who's blown more interviews than I care to remember, a lot of times it came down to, I was practicing in front of the mirror, I was practicing with friends who were just giving me high fives. I wasn't really growing. Whereas this says, hey, we can always get better. We can analyze our responses, we can see how we're coming across, we can even come back to some of those frameworks to really make sure that we're evolving, not just staying stagnant. So Judy, with this tool at your disposal, as well as the goodwill of the entire Lake Cook Career Collaborative, do you feel like you have what it takes to go out there and land that next job?
This is terrific. I just love this.
Yeah, please give it a shot. I think this is a super cool tool, and I'm going to make it extra sweet for you. Not only am I giving you a profile makeover, Judy, so obviously send me a note about that, but if you're willing, feel free to record a Udly, send it over to me, and I will give you honest feedback the way that I never gave as a hiring manager for fear of being sued by, our HR team. So if you want that kind of candid feedback for your practice, I'm always happy to offer it.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. You were amazing. Here's wishing you incredible success in all that comes next. Okay, everyone, please give it up for Judy. She made Chicagoland proud, as well as Lake Villa. And then, as we close up, I want to do two important things. Number one, if you've got final questions, be sure to ask them. Put them right in the chat, because I'm going to focus on the chat for the final part. Again, if you've asked a question earlier, just put it in the chat one more time, and that'll bring it back to my focus. And then, as you put in those final questions, I'm going to shower you with some goodies to get you rolling in the right direction. So first things first, I would love to stay in touch. I know that job searches are longer and more winding than we would like, but if you have a question tomorrow or 3 months from now on the way to an interview, always feel free to reach out, and you can connect with me tonight. Just send me a little note. We'll stay in touch. Happy to stay in your corner of the ring. Number two is, if you wanted to win a free profile makeover, but you didn't get the chance or your mic wasn't working, fear not, just send me a message right over here and we'll get that set up. Okay, I've got one more thing to share with you, but before I get there, I do want to take those final questions. So Rhonda says, how do we determine the pain points of the hiring manager from their JD? So guess what, Rhonda? This is probably the most important rule of AI. Don't get lulled in by all those snake oil salesmen who are like, oh, you've got to know the magical prompts, the magical spells to use AI. Just ask for what you want. Literally come here and say, what are the 3 main pain points behind that JD? And voila, AI gets it. AI knows exactly what you're talking about and says, hey, Rust-Oleum is trying to drive more innovation. They're trying to align all these warring teams, and they got to stand out in a really tough marketplace. And guess what? You might be a rock star at solving these problems, but your future boss won't know it until you make the case through your resume, through your cover letter, through the interview. So that's how you get what you want from the world of AI. Okay, I think that does it in terms of questions. Obviously, actually, no, Kelly's got a question. So I know there was a question before. I'm so glad Kelly called this out, which is, what if you are working as an entry-level job seeker or trying to get started as a brand new grad? What do you do if you don't have experience? Well, the number one thing I would start with is challenging that assumption. So often when I was a student, I looked in the mirror and I said, whoa, why would anyone hire me? I don't have anything going for me. But it turns out, having been a recruiter myself as well as a hiring manager, we don't really care about experience in the traditional sense. We care about experience wherever it's well-earned. As an example, 40% of recruiters in a survey I did at LinkedIn said we value volunteer experience on par at the same level as paid experience, because experience is experience is experience no matter the context. So the number one thing I would do is, if I was an entry-level student, I would come to AI, I would say, review my student CV and suggest 5 ways I might have more experience than I assume. A lot of times we are our own worst critics. We believe that we are not qualified, whereas AI says, hey, wait a second, you've actually done a ton of stuff that matters. So please use AI to kick your butt a little bit and hold yourself accountable to the fact that you are really qualified. It's up to you to share that story. Okay, one last little bonus, and that is back when I was in grad school, back when I was at the University of Michigan, go blue, I was an intern at Apple in the summer of 2011. And it turned out it wasn't just a big summer for me, it was a big summer for Apple itself. Because that was the last summer that Steve Jobs ever spent at the company. And I got a chance to see the last event he did live in person in San Francisco. And it really stuck with me even to this moment. I'll never forget, as sick and tired as Steve was at that time, he got on the stage one last time, delivered this 3-hour barn burner of a speech, and then he kept on going. He had saved this last little bonus slide, one more thing to unveil one last feature. And so in that spirit, I want to give you one more thing as well. And this time, it's called CareerBot 3000. My attempt to bring together everything we talked about tonight in one simple AI. Check this out. You always start with Ikigai. You start with focus. You say, hey, the number one thing I want to take on is sustainability. It's the biggest challenge facing our world. But if I'm going to make the world a better place, I want a chance to enjoy it. And my family is here in Chicago. So I say, stay in Chicago. Okay, how do I bring this to life? Well, it turns out, just like with Ikigai, there are all these ways to build a life, build a career that leverages our existing skills to achieve our priorities. So you might say, hey, I want to do sustainability marketing in the world's greatest city. How do I make it happen? Okay, here are some of the top employers. Maybe I'm going to work for Starbucks or for Amazon. Here are some of the keywords I need. Here's how to bring my resume to life, improve my interview strategies, even things like how do I get a referral at Starbucks, and it will walk you through this process. So here's what I want you to do. Grab this link. It's going to give you free access to this tool for as long as you want to use it. But all I ask is please be sure to use it in the same way that Steve wanted us to use our lives, which is not just to go through the motions and check a box, but to go out there and leave a big honking dent in the universe. So one last time. That's right. That's exactly right, Judy. We're thinking big here. So one last time, I got to give so much love to Claire for making this possible, as well as Jerry Donahue, the entire Lake Cook Career Collaborative, and then also special love to Lori and Rhonda and Judy and everyone who volunteered so much of their own expertise to bring the session to life. So I know the world's pretty tough these days, but hey, we're tougher, and together, there's nothing we can't do. Thank you all so much. Here's wishing you a beautiful evening. Good luck and go Cubbies. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Good night, y'all.
Thanks so much to Jeremy for sharing all this great information, and thank you for all of you for joining us tonight. Hopefully you found some good tips that you can put to use right away. We will be trying to post the recording as soon as possible, so hopefully within the next few days, and I will be sending that out to all registrants as well.